Once Upon a Time in Quentin Tarantino's Self-Indulgence. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood tells the story of the friendship between a fading actor and his stunt double as they figure out their lives and careers in the late 60s in Hollywood. So this is the 9th film by Quentin Tarantino, easily one of the best directors, writers, filmmakers, period, out there today. The guy is a legend. He will always be a legend. Some of my favorite films of all time have been written and or directed by Quentin Tarantino. Love the guy, love his work, I'll always support him. Doesn't matter if he has 5 movies I don't care for in a row, the 6th one, I'm still going out day one to check it out. He's just one of those filmmakers. He sells the movie with his name. A film by Quentin Tarantino, doesn't matter what it is, it could be about a glass of milk. I'm gonna go check it out. With that being said, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is probably the least anticipated that I've been for a Quentin Tarantino film since I've been a fan of his. I couldn't wait to see Django Unchained, I couldn't wait to see Inglourious Basterds, couldn't wait to go see Hateful Eight. And this one, I don't know if it was the trailer or the story or the fact that maybe Hateful Eight left a little bit of a dour taste in my mouth because I felt that was a very long, self-indulgent movie and probably my least favorite film of his since Jackie Brown. All those put together, when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was advertised, I was just kind of like, okay, cool. When it gets here, I'll go see it. I wasn't chomping at the bit for it. And after seeing this film, I can tell you that this is now my least favorite Quentin Tarantino film since Jackie Brown. With that being said, it's still a good movie. The dude has not made a bad film yet. Even Jackie Brown, even Hateful Eight, and this one, ones that I would say on the lower end of his filmography. A bad day at the office with Quentin Tarantino is still better than the best day at the office with 90% of the filmmakers out there. I mean, that's just a fact. But to me, this movie just didn't completely work for me. It didn't completely entertain me in the way that I expect to be entertained from Quentin Tarantino. It didn't exactly deliver the things that I was hoping that it would deliver. And by the end of it, it's a movie that I'm gonna have a hard time having the desire to rewatch this. I've seen it. I'm glad that I've seen it. If everything that I'm about to say to you was told to me by somebody that I trust, I would still go see it the next day. It's a must-watch film. Just don't think it's a must-watch again film. Starting right off with the positives, let's get the obvious ones out of the way. The filmmaking itself, the directing by Quentin Tarantino, the camera work, the shots, the recreation of the 1960s, both in the set design and in the camera and the shooting styles with certain segments where he's recreating commercials, recreating old films and old TV shows. The way that he just moves the camera around, the way that he transitions from scene to scene or transitions from character to character with camera movement, all of that stuff, flawless, as it always is with Quentin Tarantino. That's the one thing, doesn't matter what the dude does as far as story or his characters or the actors that he chooses or what he decides to put in the film, the damn thing's gonna look great. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood looks great. All of the performances are top notch. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw 1 or 2 of them in the Oscars. Usually Quentin Tarantino gets at least 1 acting Oscar nod. Leo DiCaprio, the dude's a masterclass actor. He's awesome in this. He's got the more dramatic role of the 2 leads, but he also has very funny moments in this. He proved he could do comedy with Wolf of Wall Street, and he does it again here. Brad Pitt, probably my favorite character in the film, is awesome. He's kind of the low-key character. He's a little bit more the badass. He's the stunt double, and he's hilarious. He has that Brad Pitt delivery of humor that he has always been good at, and some of the funniest scenes in this film, to me, were from Brad Pitt's character. You get to Margot Robbie. She's good with what they give her. I'll get more into her character in a little bit. She plays Sharon Tate, the famed ill-fated actress regarding the whole Manson family thing. But she is a nice presence in this film, not only because she's Margot Robbie and she looks amazing, but she has that kind of fun 60s kind of groovy personality to her that just kind of fits in this film. And all the other small actors, you got Kurt Russell showing up in here, you got Timothy Olyphant, one of my favorite actors, you got even Al Pacino coming in. Every single performance in this film delivers what it needs to do.
I'm Rick Dalton. It's my pleasure, Mr. Schwartz.
Call me Marvin. Put it there. That your son?
No, it's my stunt double, Cliff Booth.
Like I've already kind of spoken about with Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, there is quite a few funny moments in this film. A lot of people have been calling this Quentin Tarantino's funniest film. I don't know if I would say that. It's certainly a movie that focuses on comedy more. I think there's more laugh out loud moments, both intentional and unintentional, in some of his other films that I would say I would probably need to rewatch this to say that for sure, but it's up there. It's up there with the comedy that you would expect from Quentin Tarantino's dialogue. And my final positive is the fact that this is one of the most unique movies you're gonna see this year, if not the most unique movie. I don't know, the year's still gone on. By the end of the year, I might say this is the most unique. Quentin Tarantino is one of those filmmakers. Whatever film he drops that year is going to stand out from the pack, and this is of no exception to that. There's nothing else out right now that's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I appreciate when a movie has that feel to it. I see so many films that a lot of them start to kind of bleed together, a lot of them feel redundant, or they feel like they borrowed from each other, or they've done something that I've seen earlier. And pretty much everything that he goes for in this is something unique, or something in his approach that's unique, or something that he wants to say that's unique. And that's always something that I'm gonna commend. Even if I don't fully enjoy the experience, if it's something that doesn't feel like an experience I've had recently, that is a good thing. Now moving into some mixed elements, I really only have one, which is kind of a big one in reference to Quentin Tarantino films, and that's the dialogue. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the dialogue is bad in this film, it's just not quite top tier Quentin Tarantino. And maybe that's unfair expectations. Maybe I shouldn't expect a 10 out of 10 from this guy every single time he makes a film. That's just the kind of filmmaker that he is and the kind of writer that he is. But every single one of his movies has standout dialogue scenes, or they have an incredible, like, long, drawn out scene that's like something that you'll flip through Facebook and you'll see just that scene, or you'll see a YouTube clip. And it's one of those standout parts of his films. I can't think of any scene in this film that feels that way. There's good dialogue, there's good long dialogue-driven scenes. There's actually quite a few. It's a very dialogue-driven movie. But none of them have like that real punch, that real, standout aspect to it, where when I think of great Quentin Tarantino dialogue scenes, like the scene in True Romance between Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken, or like the scene in Pulp Fiction where you get the whole Ezekiel 25:17 thing, or the scenes in, Reservoir Dogs, the scene that put him on, like there's so many different films where you can think of that one scene. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood just doesn't really have that one scene for me.
Line. Cut! Embarrass yourself like that in front of all those goddamn people!
And now moving on to the bad. Oh my God! This movie is long as fuck. Now look, I already know I'm opening myself to the comment sections for people that saw my Midsommar review and then are gonna watch this and go, Cody just doesn't like long movies. He must not have a very big attention span. I love a lot of long movies, all right? I love Goodfellas. I love all of the previous Quentin Tarantino movies for the most part, even the longer ones. I have tons of 2.5 hour, 3+ hour, hell, Avengers Endgame. My favorite movie so far this year was almost 3 hours long. The length is not the problem. It's feeling the length that is the problem. And this movie clocks in at like 2 hours, 45 minutes, and it feels like 3.5 hours. It's one of those films where I was like, holy shit, this thing is just, where are we going? There was even a point in the movie where some fuckhole in front of me pulls out his phone, and when I did my typical stare in the back of his head thing where I'm hoping I have the Brightburn Superman fucking laser vision where I can blow a hole in the back of his head for being a dick, I see the time on his phone, and the movie, which I thought was wrapping up its second act maybe and heading into the third act by this point, had only been on for 45 minutes. I looked at the clock, I was like, no fucking way. And look, it depends on how you respond to Quentin Tarantino's approach in this film. If you're entertained by every single thing that he's doing, it might feel like an 1.5 hour movie that just went by in 3 hours. For me, I felt every single minute of this film. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not one to say this a lot, especially about filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino, but dude, listen to your editor, because you could have cut at least 45 minutes off of this film. Basically everything involving Sharon Tate could have been cut out of this film.
I'm Sharon Tate. I'm in the movie.
You're in this?
That's me. I play Miss Carlson, the klutz.
There's so many moments in here, and this is where the self-indulgence comes in, and this is where I really felt it in The Hateful Eight, where it was really self-indulgent with how long and drawn out and slow he made so many pieces of that film. Here, it is so self-indulgent in his love and knowledge of the 1960s that he just constantly keeps throwing things at it. He keeps throwing recreated commercials, or recreated movies, or recreated TV scenes, or look, I can shoot just like the 1960s. Look, I can recreate California and Los Angeles to look exactly like the 1960s. Look, I can put all these old classic movie posters up and make this famous movie theater look just like it did in the 1960s. Look, there's even Taco Bell from the 1960s. And it just keeps going and going and going to the point where it's like, okay, I get it. You love the 60s, you know a lot about the 60s, and you're just splurging it all onto the screen. But like some aspects, like, did we really need a full 3-4 minute recreation of that scene from The Great Escape? You could have got the point and got the joke out in 30 seconds. Just show the scene once, but he just keeps going with it and going with it. And then you get 4 or 5 different recreations of, you know, old TV shows and splicing Leonardo DiCaprio in there for comedic effect. And it's like, we get it, dude. You love the 60s.
Buddy, order fried sauerkraut! Damn you Nazi bastards!
And I know a lot of people that loved this film are probably looking at that going, dude, that's the best part of the movie. What are you bitching about? The issue is this is not a plot story-driven film at all. This is by far the least plot-driven Quentin Tarantino movie, and really the least Tarantino-feeling Tarantino movie that I have ever seen. And sometimes where that can be entertaining, just having random dialogue scenes that just keep kind of splicing into each other and eventually head to some kind of a culmination, it just didn't feel like it was worth the trip this time around. You can make that argument for something like Pulp Fiction where, you know, describe the plot of Pulp Fiction in one sentence. You can't. It's just a bunch of different stories and dialogue scenes and character interactions that happen to weave themselves together throughout this non-chronological film. But where Pulp Fiction succeeds is by the time you get to the end of the film and you see how all these things mesh together, how everything kind of wraps around each other, it makes that film brilliant, and you can rewatch it and rewatch it and rewatch it and enjoy the whole journey even though you're scattered all about in the timeline. This is just dudes talking about shit until eventually you get to the third act and Manson Family shit happens. Oh, and that's not a spoiler, by the way. They've been talking about the Manson Family shit since they first announced this film, so don't even try that. So like I said, it just depends how you experience this film and what piece of his filmmaking you enjoy. If you like all the constant references and the constant, you know, retro filmmaking aspects, and you're just gonna splurge love for everything that Quentin Tarantino does as far as a filmmaker, then you're probably going to enjoy all the crazy things that he does in this and just go along for the ride. If you're there for story, if you're there for like character-driven plot, this is not going to be your type of movie, because so many times throughout this film, especially the first half, I was going, where the hell is this going? Now, I already spoke about it. I already kind of mentioned that everything pretty much involving Sharon Tate's character could be taken out of this film and the film would be just fine, probably better for it. And that is one of the bigger negatives of this film, because they give a lot of time to Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. Not to develop her character, not to give her cool, interesting things to do, just to keep showing that Sharon Tate is there and to keep kind of building up to whatever happens with this version of the Manson family. And they keep showing, you know, certain things that let you know where it's eventually going to be heading throughout this film. But they just don't do anything interesting with her character. I didn't feel like I got to know Sharon Tate. I didn't feel like I cared about Sharon Tate. They show you that she's married to Roman Polanski, and they show you that she's got this other fling going on with this other dude that still hangs out at the house, and they show her go to a movie and watch herself in the theater laughing and, you know, smiling at everybody enjoying the film, and they show her going to this place, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, I don't know this character at all. I get it. The Manson family is coming at some point. Please get back to Leo. Please get back to Brad. Come on. And like I said, I enjoyed what she brought to it. I enjoyed seeing her and seeing her take on this woman and this actress with this ill-fated storyline, but it just felt like the movie got really bogged down with it. I almost feel like it would have been better to have Sharon Tate show up in the end as like a surprise, like maybe keep the Manson family stuff secretive instead of them telling us that it was going to be a Manson family thing going on in the background when they first announced it. That would have been a cool little reveal in the third act to have Sharon Tate come out and everybody go, oh man, that's going to happen. But no, they front load the movie with, hey, here's Sharon Tate, guess what's coming later on? But the film never does anything interesting with her. And my final negative, and I will fully admit this might be an unfair expectation just because of what Quentin Tarantino has done previously, doesn't necessarily mean that's what he always is gonna do. I expect a certain amount of tension and a certain amount of building tension in a Tarantino film. And this movie really had none of that. It's not really going for that. It's more of a dramedy than any of his like crime thriller type stuff. So I get why maybe it wouldn't quite fit with what he's going for here. But that's one of his strengths. That's one of the things about his version of filmmaking and his version of writing kind of lends itself as to building tension towards something big, like the big fight at the end of Kill Bill Volume 1, for example. This film had one really good scene of mild tension involving Brad Pitt at a ranch, and then the tension was gone immediately after that and never came back. Even when certain things happen in the third act that should require a little bit of building tension, I never felt it. So I don't know if that was intended, that he didn't want to have any tension in this, or if he went for it thinking that, you know, he's just organically always gonna have tension with the way that he writes, but it really felt like a giant hole in a Tarantino film to not have some kind of tension building. And I'll just say this, look, this is a must-watch film, and this is a film that I would encourage everybody to see regardless of what I am saying now. I'm just telling you what my experience with the film is. But I will say one thing. I'm not somebody that typically watches other people's reviews before I film my review, but I had some time on my hands. I was a little conflicted about some of my thoughts with this. I was kind of surprised at how I walked away feeling with a Quentin Tarantino film. So I did watch about 3 or 4 different reviews of this film. And one of the common themes that I kept seeing with everybody that was praising this movie was that every single negative that I have towards this, they also had, but they tacked a little asterisk on the end that said, but it's Quentin Tarantino, so I'll forgive it. And I gotta say, I don't really agree with that. I don't really think that because it's Quentin Tarantino, you should ignore or disregard what you consider a flaw with that film. I don't care how many great movies the dude has made. I don't care if he's done 25 flawless films, but when you get to the 26th one, there's things you don't like. Just because it's got Quentin Tarantino's name on it doesn't mean that it should be immune to saying what you feel positive and negative about the film. And if you could walk into this film and it didn't say Quentin Tarantino, it said, you know, John Smith's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and you would walk out saying all the negative things that I'm saying, then you should say that even if it says Quentin Tarantino on the poster. Rant over. All in all, guys, like I've said twice now, this is a must-watch film. If you're a Quentin Tarantino fan at all, you must watch this. If you're a fan of dramedies like this, you must watch this. If you're a fan of 1960s Hollywood and 1960s versions of filmmaking, or if you're just a fan of the Sharon Tate, Manson Family era and the weird things surrounding that, it's not a big part of this movie whatsoever. It's about maybe 20% of what's going on, but you must watch this. Everybody should watch this to see what they will get out of it. I just don't think, compared to a lot of Quentin Tarantino films, that most people are going to walk out of this liking it. I think it's going to be the most divisive film that he's ever made. Time will tell, but that's what I think. I think it's going to be split down the middle, maybe even 60-40 with who likes it and who dislikes it, and I think it's one of his least rewatchable films. Great filmmaking, great characters, great acting, really cool setting, and just kind of getting you into that 1960s zone, but no plot, no story, very poor pacing, way too long, way too much self-indulgence, and it's just a film where I go, okay, I've seen it, check that off the box, don't need to watch it again. So if you're a fan of Tarantino or dramedies or the 1960s, definitely check this thing out, but do not rush out to go see it. This is not necessarily a film that merits having to see it on the big screen, and I don't think a lot of people are going to walk out of this loving it the way most of his films are. So be patient, save your money, and stream it. So what did you guys think about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Were you a Tarantino fanatic that thought that this was the most brilliant thing you've seen all year? Are you a Tarantino fan like me and just didn't really get this? Did you hate this film? Is it your favorite, your least favorite? What is your favorite Quentin Tarantino film? Were you disappointed at all with how things went in the third act? Maybe put spoiler alert before you do certain things, but did you find it distasteful? Did you find it fun and entertaining? It seems like something that's divided a lot of people too. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we will talk about it. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you guys want to check out some social media links, check the video description below for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help this channel grow, and get cool exclusive content for your eyes only, as well as my Teespring store, which you could probably see right now if not scroll just a little bit down. All of my t-shirts and merchandise is right there on that little shelf for you to check out. A lot of cool designs designed by the great Woody Bowen. Check all that out, please. I will greatly appreciate it. Another good way to support this channel. And if you guys want to check out some more of my content, you can check that out by clicking right over here.